Our guests on today's episode are Teresa Perleberg and Chris Armbrust. These two women had their own successful businesses prior to joining and linking arms. And what they are creating together with collaboration, a ton of faith, and a lot of hope is unlike anything I've ever seen. I know that I tend to get very enthusiastic and excited about everybody that comes on the show because there are such cool people all over the place doing such cool things. But truly, these two women, they have a story unlike anything I've ever heard, and they have guts. Almost unlike I feel like I've ever seen. And I'm so excited to share their story with you. So there is so much to their story. And when I even start the episode, you'll hear, I don't even know where to start. Like, it's just so overwhelming. But I want to share with you just the highlights so you can get prepped for what's to come. And then we need to just get into the episode. But these two women came together. They each had their own businesses. Chris ran a fiber mill, and Teresa actually takes that product then and converts it into art. So they are both in the world of fiber arts, which involves, wool that comes from animals. And so they have this rich, crazy, amazing story of how their businesses were interwoven. And then they took on this additional massive project where they're putting a future mill, her fiber mill, Chris's fiber mill. They're going to be teaching classes. They'll have an event center. They'll have a B&B, like actual guest rooms, all in a former schoolhouse in a town of about 60 people in the middle of rural North Dakota. So I'm going to share with you, I know it's just like the most amazing thing. So I'm going to share with you what they wrote about themselves on the Gnome Schoolhouse Facebook page, just so you can get a sense of what we're going to talk about. This is what they said. We purchased a 100-year-old abandoned school building and are pouring all of our money, energy, and love into restoring this beautiful historic structure. We look forward to sharing our love of the fiber arts with everyone who visits our future facility. So you listen to that and it's like, okay, so I went there just yesterday. It's the first time I've ever had to wear a hard hat to a podcast interview. So that was super cool. But walking through and listening to what they're putting into this space, definitely it's a lot of money. We talk about that. The energy and the love, we talk about that. And we talk about the faith required to do something like this. You guys are going to be just completely blown away and inspired like I was. And they've got an amazing story, each in their own right. And now that they've joined forces, I cannot wait to be there when they open the doors to this thing. So without further ado, just sip. I usually say take notes. I had a piece of paper in front of me because I always jot down notes as I talk to people. I didn't write down a single thing. I just listened to them and was so engrossed in talking with them. And man, I hope it blesses you like it blessed me. So I'm not going to tell you to take out notes this time. I'm going to tell you to get a cup of something delicious and sit by a fire and listen to these women tell their story. So without further ado, here are my new soul sisters, Chris and Teresa. Hey, ladies.
Hi.
My mind is fully blown. I've been here walking around the Gnome Schoolhouse with you for the last hour or so. This podcast is going to be one of my favorite things of people. I've talked to so many cool people. There's so many cool people doing so many cool things, but I really think you two take the cake. So do you want to, and either one of you can start by sharing, someone needs to tell the origin story of how the two of you met and when this project came to be. Well, actually, we're going to back up. First, tell us, first of all, we're going to tell everybody we're sitting in the bathroom because this is an active construction site. And I wanted to come to you. I mean, we could have done this over Zoom, but that would have been a horrible mistake. So I'm so grateful that I got to come and visit you in person. So we're in the bathroom, which is really funny. Why don't we first, to give people some sense of scope, can you tell us about the Gnome Schoolhouse, like the overall project, what will be here in June of 2021, because that's your timeline. And then we'll back up and someone can tell us, either you can piggyback off each other, how you met and how it all came to be.
Well, October of 2018, we purchased the Gnome Schoolhouse.
Okay, first of all, this is Chris. Just so when they hear your voices, then they'll know.
Chris.
So, yep.
And since then, it started with a tour of our husbands, ourselves and our husbands. And
are we supposed to be telling what it's?
Oh, that's right. Okay. Am I going off?
Yeah, that's okay. You're good. I love it. She's like, let me get you back on track.
Yes.
Okay. I imagine you two do that for each other a lot. This is so great. I know,
Squirrels,
it's
give me-
okay. All the squirrels.
Yes. Okay, the Gnome Schoolhouse in June 3rd is our expected completion date. Is going to be, we'll start at the top. We're going to have 11 B&B rooms, 11 guest rooms of varying sizes, each with their own bathroom. And down to the next level, we'll have a retail store. We'll have a museum room / classroom space. We'll have a dining space that seats 110, a large commercial kitchen, and our office space. And below that will be the mill, our mill that processes raw fiber, whether it's wool, alpaca, what have you, all into usable product, whether it's roving or yarn, what have you. And then on that same level, we'll have a huge classroom space along with bathrooms that were back in the day the boys and girls bathrooms, which will be the male and female bathroom for the school. And then the gymnasium is going to be an event center that seats up to 350 or so, with a catering kitchen, bar, and then of course out back we have a huge barn that'll house our education herd of sheep of varying breeds, alpaca, camel.
That's new information.
Yes,
I didn't know about the barn. Oh my gosh, you guys.
They didn't take you out back.
No, I didn't get to go out back. So let me just first say, holy Moses. Like I said it at least a few times, kind of under my breath. I might have said more fancy words under my breath. What you are taking on here is nothing short of absolutely amazing. I was telling you when I pulled up, my contractor and I were on the phone, and I pulled up and I asked him, so he does a lot of contracting work around here, and I asked him if he'd ever been here. And he said, no, why? What are they doing? And I'm like, I don't know yet because I haven't gone in. And I said, but it makes my piddly little building look so simple.
Piddly.
Well, it's just it's so awesome to talk to you, because I think this is nothing short of just strength of conviction and strength of faith and strength of belief.
Amen.
And hope.
Yeah.
So much hope and so much inspiration. It's so exciting. So so people can even fathom that. Like walking through here, it's all in a state of renovation where you can see very clearly that it's a very old building.
Mm-hmm.
It was built in 1916, right? That's correct?
That's right.
And so you're trying this difficult balance, which, I mean, I can appreciate it on the tiniest of scales, somehow preserving the integrity and the beauty of the old stuff, but then meeting what you called it the C word, which is code.
Yes.
So you're here with a giant construction company, and they don't like old stuff, generally speaking, right? They'd rather just pitch it and start over.
That was the whole thing. They assumed we were going to be removing all of this old woodwork and then rebuilding it, because that would be easier than meticulously removing it like we have done, because all the hardwoods have been removed and will be relayed.
Right.
But all that 16 inches of moldings, there was 3 different layers of moldings around the base, all had to be removed ever so carefully.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we could, reinstall it, and they just wanted to rip it off. And
Right.
We can just redo that so it looks like that. And we're like, no.
Right. So I have a tin ceiling
Yes.
in my space, and the same deal. And my contractor gets it, but he said, he goes, yeah, when you're demoing stuff, it's way easier if you don't have to save any of it. Just rip it off and use a sledgehammer and go crazy. So so the scope of this project is people are just going to have to come here, which of course we're going to encourage people like crazy to come here. But what I think people need to hear a lot about too, and maybe Teresa, you can share some of this, because the fiber arts in general is something, it's kind of a niche pocket, right, of people that do this kind of thing. But the fact that the two of you, we need to hear how you met. Because, so Chris, you have a mill where you already actually convert this raw product into something that Teresa uses to either design and actually create herself. And then there's these kits. Like the fact that your businesses, how they work together and that you're doing it all here, it's just so cool. So can you tell us a little bit about the classes you'll hold here, why you need a herd out back? Like that kind of thing is not something everybody's going to understand. So this can go in any direction. There's a lot to cover. It's really something.
So the story that how we all started. So I'll share my part. I started with sheep. My daughter wanted a lamb for her 8th birthday, so we got her lamb, and that's how it all began. I was invited to the Woolly Women Gathering, and they introduced Libby, my daughter, to needle felting, and then I just kind of picked it up from her and started making animals out of wool with using the art of needle felting. And then people were interested in buying them, and then they were interested in learning how I did it.
Sure.
And it was a relatively new thing. Nobody really heard of it. So it was a lot of explaining as to how these came together. And so then I designed kits with instructions on how to do it. And then all the wool inside is provided by my sheep. And then it grew from there. From the kits, those are all designed for beginners, so they're pretty easy. And then there was those that wanted to learn how to go farther and to make, larger sculptures and things. So I started the Bear Creek Needle Felting Academy. That it's video courses, and they pay annually or monthly to become members, and they have access to all of the videos to learn how to do this, and they can ask me questions, and they can talk to each other within the academy.
Is that on Facebook? Or how do you, what's the platform that they talk to each other? Or do you have like a membership site?
I have a membership site.
Okay.
On my website.
Okay.
Bear Creek Felting.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Did you have a career or something you were doing when you found this? Or what were you doing?
My career was homeschooling my kids.
Okay. That is a career. Yes, yeah. It is. Okay. Amazing. What was it about needle, like felting? What was it about this material? Like what caught you?
Originally wanted to learn how to spin, into yarn. But I knew I wanted to make something from the sheep. I wanted to, take something from nothing to something. And the needle felting, I didn't realize I had any artistic abilities at all.
Oh, I think that's an important thing to hear for people listening to this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 39 and I started making them, and it all just came together. And I've had people ask me, well, where did you go to art school? Right. We didn't even have art in high school. So
yeah. Oh man, this is such a great story though. I mean, besides just what you're now doing with it, it's just incredible. But I think we were talking about this earlier, that I think there's this misconception that you have to be a certain thing or a certain way to make stuff. And what I love about what you guys are doing is you're going to give people license to try.
Very good way to put it.
Permission to explore. And I think that who knows what people are going to unlock in themselves. Like it may not turn into a business, but it could.
Yeah.
It actually could, because you're living proof of it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely.
That is amazing. That's amazing. And Chris, how about you?
Well, I started with 4 alpacas. I used to rodeo back in the day.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I got rid of my feral horses, then I had an empty barn, and that's not a good thing,
to have an empty barn.
To have an empty barn. So
Right.
I decided, I'm not going to go the route of getting more horses. So alpacas, I saw a advertisement for alpacas. So
You saw an advertisement for alpacas? Where did you come upon that?
Well, probably 15 years ago, alpacas were huge. I mean, the female alpacas were selling for $60,000 and up.
What?
This was in the heyday of the alpacas, and
I didn't know alpacas had a heyday. That's so
they
fun.
did have a heyday.
We had a pumpkin patch, and my mom wanted alpacas so badly.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
that's
started with,
amazing.
I told my husband, if you let me get these 4 alpacas, I'm going to learn to hand spin, and I'm going to make so much money selling their hand spun alpaca yarn, because I'll just process it, all myself.
I'm going to make so much money. I love that. Yeah, I'm going to make so much money.
So much money. Yes. So he's like, all right, okay.
Yeah, sure you will.
And at that time, to get a good fiber alpaca, male, non-breeding, castrated alpaca, was $1,500 to $2,000, and I bought 4 of them and started processing. I joined a spinning guild, learned how to spin, loved it, started making my own yarn. And you can't, in hand spinning, it's archaic, but it's so rewarding to spin your own yarn and then make something out of it. It is amazing, but I didn't have time to do it, to sell the yarn like I told my husband I was going to do.
All the money you were going to make?
Yes. So I started using an outside mill like myself to have someone else make the yarn that I could sell to friends and family, so on and so forth. So one year, this was 12 years ago. My alpaca shears said, Chris, you should look into opening your own mill because there's a shortage of them in the nation, like myself.
Right.
You know, and I went, okay, that sounds great. I'll pray about it and let you know how that goes. And prayed about it. And the Lord it was what I was to do. Threw open the doors. And within 6 months, I had a mill. Complete with a carter from England, and I was trained. I flew over this English textile engineer that trained me for 3 weeks. Then he flew back across the pond, and I had all this commercial textile equipment that I was the only one that was trained on it, and it cost $175,000 just for the equipment. And
so can you back up for just a second and tell me, how did God what doors got thrown open?
I'm like, for one thing, money,
sure.
And how am I going to get $175,000 loan?
Yes.
Well, and I thought, okay, I'll start there. I need money. And so I went to the bank, and lo and behold, there was an interest-only woman's entrepreneurial, starting her own business type loan that was out there for something like this. So I got that, and that only paid for 50%, and then the other 50% I maxed out our second mortgage because we didn't have a second mortgage on our home. So I took all the equity in our house, and my dear husband was like, "You're gonna, by faith." He allowed this to happen because all he knew about spinning was me sitting at my spinning wheel spinning yarn.
Right. It probably didn't seem all that productive.
Correct.
Right.
And this is going to be a business, and of course I had my business plan and got the machines, and within 2 years I had surpassed my 5-year business plan. So it was a success. But during the first 2 year startups, as I worked a full-time job and a full-time, so I worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
What were you doing? What was your other job?
I worked in a nursing home, which I loved, and I do have a passion for the elderly, and I'm looking forward to getting those folks into the school and working with them.
Oh, it's going to be so fun.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah.
So there's, again, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, or a dead alpaca, maybe. I don't mean to keep saying this, but there is so many things that are just astounding, even about your individual stories. First of all, I think let's give a nod to the husbands.
Yes.
Because
Amen. Yeah.
It is, I've always said, it can't be easy to be married to me.
My
husband, I don't even think listens to my podcast, so it's funny. But I'm like, I give you lots of compliments on there because it really is, it's a leap of faith and you're doing it together. This isn't the kind of thing where I am woman, hear me roar. It doesn't fly for me. I'm married, he has to be on board, and he and I don't, we just move through the world very differently. So what I would love to just hear, was it convincing? Did it feel like a leap of faith for them as well? Or
you mean venturing into this project?
We could actually pivot into this now, because honestly, even your start though, you both are in such niche things, which is so cool because I've never met anybody that has businesses exactly like this, right? Mm-hmm. But $175,000 is nothing to it's not simple. There's nothing easy about that. Mm-hmm. And yet I think sometimes we hope that we can start businesses with zero overhead. And that's right. Yes. So Teresa's frantically waving her hand because it's true. So, but your businesses were very different, and yet, wow, how complementary. Because we were talking about this. Teresa's business, you were able to procure your raw materials, your yarn from. Well, now you get them from Chris, which is fantastic. But overall, your overhead was really, really low. So what's cool about this is the two of you had completely different businesses, and you both did them from a very small place. And again, if people don't get what's possible now, I don't know, how do we get them to get this, right? Anything is possible. Yeah, man, there's so much.
They don't understand we have viable businesses and that are growing, and it's a tough one.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. And so now let's talk about this project, because I think it's important for people to understand that you didn't come into this space and go, wouldn't it be cool if we had a fiber mill in here? You already had a fiber mill. Each had successful businesses, and you found a way, or you had a vision for how you could bring those together here, right? So I think it's important to hear your backstories so people get how this came to be. But how on earth did you find the Gnome Schoolhouse? Neither of you live here.
No,
No.
that was her.
So I would love to hear, like, how did this come about? And because the scope of this, you guys, is insane. I mean, not in a bad way, like in the best of ways, but it really is a huge endeavor. So please tell us, like, how did this come to be?
Well, Chris had the original idea, and we had been kind of thinking we should partner our businesses. We worked on a project together, designing a wool needle felting cushion that has been a big hit, a big seller. And we worked on that, and we realized that we worked really well together, and that, all the benefits of joining our businesses. So Chris had proposed, and it all started with my daughter, Libby, again.
Yes.
And because she wanted to be a chef, and Chris had sent me an email one day saying, that she was thinking of building this building on her property by Kindred, and that we could have a store in there. And then it grew from that into an event center.
And the B&B rooms, so it could be an all-encompassed retreat center. And
so that, and Libby would cook. And
so let's talk about that. Your daughter is a chef, which I'm so jealous. I'm like, I don't think any of my kids they're not looking like, my middle kid really he's a boy. He really likes to cook. So I'll just encourage, encourage, because that's a really cool feature, because she is going to have an on-site apartment, which was really cool. I took an amazing picture of that. And she's going to be your chef for all of your events.
Yeah, she's cooked all of our meals for about 7 years. So
I
am very spoiled.
And she's not just cooking.
Of course,
she
she's a chef.
They don't even have a microwave. Let me put that. So everything is done from scratch. You make homemade buns. I remember we had an event here, our opening event. We ran out of buns. I'm like, just go running, pick up some buns. Oh, no. The dear one drove home and baked more buns.
That is so incredible.
It's just, it's gonna be
so
on a different level.
Yeah, it's gonna be so amazing for your guests.
Yes.
That it's actually, it's not, again, like people, I think of the things people have said to me in the last year. I cannot imagine the things that have been said to the two of you. We can talk about that in a minute. But I'm even thinking, I can see both of you have such gracious, hospitable hearts. It makes sense to me that you would want to have a space that you welcome people in and have them feel cozy and connected and, and retreat.
Pampered.
Yes, and pampered. But to nail every single one of those things is really hard to do, because cooking is a whole thing in and of itself, and it makes or breaks experiences for people.
Absolutely.
So I think it's so cool. Libby, she's like the starter of a lot of stuff in your world, which is really special.
It's been amazing when you look back at it. And she has an added bonus that she's a wonderful knitter.
Yes.
And she's involved in all of the fiber arts as well. Yes. And so that's just an added.
And so she'll be here, for helps, for if someone needs help with a project and whatnot too. So
and then Chris, you have a daughter.
I have a daughter
that is also will be involved in the business.
Yes.
Let's talk about her role a little bit.
Yeah, we needed someone to, to handle the eventing. Because
it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing in and of itself.
Just like the food is a whole thing.
Yeah.
The planning and quality event planning it's a big deal.
Correct. And she did an amazing job doing her wedding. We had, wedding venues are huge. Everywhere. People don't get married in churches anymore. They get married at these beautiful wedding venues, and she did. And just planning, people have her help for their bridal showers and their birthdays. And when I thought she would be perfect, to come on board to help with the eventing and the weddings and so on and so forth. So that's what she's doing. She's a nurse, so she will keep her license and just, slowly back out of nursing and then just, work 1 day a week or so.
Well, the great thing is there's such a need for nursing.
Absolutely.
She could be a traveling nurse, and pick up shifts here and there probably and always have
just to keep her license.
Right.
But otherwise, she'll be here, and the flexibility thereof that. So,
right.
Yeah.
So
it's neat. It's us four ladies.
It is. It's absolutely amazing, because that was one of the things when I said, what about staff? Like, how are you guys going to do this? Because staffing is a challenge. It's a challenge for everybody in more typical businesses, right?
Yeah.
So do you need more people than the four of you?
Absolutely.
Of course, when it comes to banqueting, like banquets or, actual big sit downs, because do you have a wedding on the books already for this year?
Yep, September.
Yeah, well, that gives you a little more time, but still June 3rd.
More important, June 26th, the last Saturday, In June, we have the Gnome all-school reunion.
That's
here
a
in the
huge
That
deal.
is very huge, because it has been an amazing honor for Teresa and I to hear these stories of these alumni that come back in, and they tell us things that, oh wow.
That is
And
going to
to
be
be
like
able
a
to have them-
waterworks
Oh
weekend
my
for you two. Are you
goodness,
two
I
criers?
bet.
Are you criers?
No, can be.
We can
Yeah.
be.
Oh, I'm always like even just last night, this is so silly. We sang to the residents at the assisted living from outside, like our little neighborhood kind of went, and we were singing, we were singing Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Yes.
And these folks haven't had guests or people to see them. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, and my little guy looks up and he's like, because I'm always crying, like always misting over. Oh, so I think of how fulfilling and just that's going to be such an amazing weekend. That's a great first event post-opening to be able to welcome all the people that have a connection to the physical building. That's so cool.
And for them to see it complete is
That's our goal. That's what we're hoping to be done.
And our construction manager gave us the June 3rd self-imposed deadline. I mean, that's when they told us we will have our OC, our occupancy certificate. So this like I've said, this is no joke. It's the first podcast I've ever got to come in and you're like, we should probably put hard hats on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is legit. But there's a lot of demo happening. So I would be a terrible podcast host if I did not venture into a topic that nobody likes to talk about, but I already asked if we could go there. Yes.
How on earth, what's the financing side of this look like? And let's talk a little bit about the journey, because you both have kind of alluded to the fact that you almost feel like you can't get a traditional bank. And this is we're not disparaging banks. Okay. So that's not what we do. But it's almost like you couldn't get them to take you seriously, and you both have successful businesses. So walk us through, because the financing, I feel like it's the thing, it stops everybody short. Yeah. Because it's terrifying. Let's be real about it. It's terrifying. And absolutely. Yeah. So whatever you want to share, and if I ask a question that you go, not really into it, that's okay. I mean, you don't have to answer everything I ask, but.
Yeah, we started with a budget of $800,000. That's what we started with going into this.
Which, by the way, is a tremendous amount of money.
Exactly, because that's what it would have cost us to build new.
Sure.
To put up a big steel Foltz Morton type building. And that's what so that's kind of, okay, if we can get this done for that, that's good. And of course, this was much prayer. I mean, this was, okay, let's go through with this. It was structurally sound. My husband told us that we should be committed when he first saw it.
Okay. And by the way, we haven't really talked about how did this building come to be? We'll come back to the money piece because I felt like we started there and then I probably took us off track. So I apologize. And then your husband's came along. Like my husband walking through here would have been like, oh, no, and no. Right? I mean, like, for sure. So how did that all come about?
Well, first of all, Teresa had never met my husband. When we bought the school.
Yeah.
And then we were so excited because they had it sold and it was going to be torn down. So we had to make this decision right now. And
Teresa, you were the one that spotted this.
Well, I had driven by it for years. And I would point that out to the kids saying, look at that cute school back there. And then recently trees had just grown. You couldn't even see the school. So I wasn't even sure if it was still here. And we were school shopping. When we decided we wanted to use an older building instead of building new.
Right.
Then we thought schools would be perfect because of the gym. I was mainly thinking of the gym for the mill at the time. Yeah, so then we just started school shopping in the area, and we looked at Sheldon in between us, and there was something wrong with the structure. So, and it had been vandalized, and so then it was that day that we looked at that I said, let's just go over and see if that school that I'm thinking of is still in Nome.
And it was the four of us, so it was our daughters, and
the original A team.
Yep.
And we drove up, even after we drove right up to it, we didn't know if it was still there.
It was that
overgrown.
Yeah.
Yes, it was like a jungle. So we went crawling through the jungle to get to it. And we were amazed.
So when you walked in, did you feel something? Did you just know?
We just said right away, this is it. It was the
girls too?
It was like it was frozen in time.
Yeah, the girls too? Or were they a little bit like...
Well, you know, and I say it was frozen in time. It was pretty tough shape. I mean,
Yeah, I've seen the pictures.
Yeah, it was pretty tough shape. And we got the vision and the woodwork and we just knew. We just knew. Yeah.
So then when did your husbands come?
Well,
the first day we saw it, how many days later and we bought it?
mm-hmm.
I don't remember how many days, like 8.
8 days later, we bought it. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then we're like,
two
wait
are
a second,
so cool.
we gotta get our husbands out here. And my husband is a home inspector. And
well, how handy.
Armbrust repair and remodeling. So we're like, okay, we better get him in here
to structurally
check this out.
Yeah.
Teresa had never met him. Jeff had never met him, Teresa's husband. So we all meet here and we're all walking through the school and he's not saying anything, my husband. He hates old buildings for one thing. And I had informed Teresa of
As
that.
inspectors would.
Yes, just hates old buildings. So we're walking through, he didn't say anything, and I'm like thinking to myself, he sees it. He sees the vision. He's got it. And we got up to the second floor and he turned to us and said, you guys should be committed. I said, there's no way. I'm out. Negative. Yes.
Can I just point out though, I love that you're like, oh, he gets it. This is great. He's not saying anything. You're just like willing him to get it.
Yes.
I love when he turns around, he's like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, it was horrible. So then I'm like, but honey, if we wanted to go ahead, what would we do? Where would we start? And he turned around and he goes, you would need to hire a structural engineer because this place probably isn't even structurally sound. But then we walked around the outside of the building and he's like, I hate to admit it, it looks like it's structurally sound, because the brick, I mean, it was in really great shape. So that's the first thing we did. We hired a structural engineer, got the green light, and onward we went. And God, we just through much prayer. I mean, there was times when we wanted to stop. When preliminary costs, the first time was when we did our Kickstarter. Preliminary costs, before
you did a Kickstarter for this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we need to talk about that because that's interesting.
Yeah, and that was kind of our fleece. We got to the point where we were funding it ourselves, our own 2 businesses, and we're like, okay, this is getting bigger. We knew
you funded those original bills, like the structural engineer, which not cheap.
Not cheap at all. Engineering, oh my goodness.
And architecture. Those just professional services can set you back a long ways. And you just don't.
That's before any hammer is even
before
swung,
a dang thing is done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, so we got to the point where we knew it was going to be well in excess of our $800,000 budget. And we're like, Lord, I don't think we're out. We don't think, okay, we're going to do this. Teresa said, we need to do a Kickstarter. I didn't even know what Kickstarter is. I heard of GoFundMe.
Right.
Did not know what Kickstarter is. And we're like, okay, we're going to throw our fleece out there. If we can get $40,000 in our Kickstarter, the Lord, I mean, we're meant to go. And
yes, tell us about it.
I knew that we have like a large following online, and
for your existing businesses.
Yeah. So I wanted to incorporate, get those people involved, and that was the only way I could think of, and to get more people out there involved. And so Kickstarter was very, very stressful, but
yeah, of course.
Yeah, because we knew it was make or break.
It's make or break, right?
Yeah. And
go or no go.
Yeah.
We set the goal at 40,000, and just promote it, and there's a lot of work, on social media and things to get the word.
It is exhausting. Mm-hmm. It is exhausting. So where'd you end up on Kickstarter?
44,000.
That's amazing. And in what period of time?
It was before the end date, and it was a month.
So you ran the campaign for a month?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you would do different now with hindsight about how it went? I only ask that because, Kickstarter can be a great way, because we're going to talk, if you're willing to share the actual project budget now. I mean, to kind of take that next step and say, okay, because you can do Kickstarters for initial funding, you can do it for, I may end up having to do it a bit later for some gap funding at the end. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, you ran it for a month. Having a short-ish time frame is a really smart idea. Any other lessons you learned or things you would have done differently?
I don't know what I would have done differently. One thing. One of the things that they could get were needle felted sheep.
Yeah.
And
with a contribution of X amount or something?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And so
because they get rewards.
Right.
Levels.
Yeah. So there was
that's stressful in and of itself.
42 sheep that had to be made. at
Yes.
some point. So-
Handmade.
That you had handmade.
And then I don't know if the price for them was
Enough.
for
Yeah.
what we had to do in the end. I mean, that was just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we had several at the really high level. That was really exciting. That's what put us over the top.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Did the support come from all over the world?
Yes.
Yeah, because your business has patrons and members that are from all over the world. And I only highlight that again to remind people that you live in Fort Ransom, North Dakota,
Mhm.
which is about the same size as Nome. It can't be that much bigger than Nome.
It's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, tiny bit bigger. But like,
Yeah.
what would be the official population of Fort Ransom, North
I
Dakota?
think it's around 105.
Right. We're talking tiny. I mean, you live there for the beauty. That's such a beautiful nestled little valley. I love Fort Ransom. But I want people to understand just what we're capable of delivering and offering, and that we are not limited to a local market by any means. And I think sometimes we just do not think big enough.
That is correct.
You get to enjoy the beauty of a small community and have a bigger business if that's what you want. So it's really, really cool. Okay, so you got the 44,000, and you went, oh my, okay, and it was kind of a. So can I ask this quick? You've mentioned a few times that you both, I imagine, turn to prayer.
Well, yes.
Throughout this a lot. Is that? Well, I'm not going to share it, but I saw "The Lord is my shepherd" written upstairs on one of the chalkboards when we were walking around. Is that a defining thing for the two of you? Is it like part of almost a motto that you have?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Do you want to share a little
Well,
bit
that's Shepherd
about
Industries. That's where it came from.
Right. So
You know,
Shepherd
that's-
Industries is what?
Shepherd Industries is our businesses, our two businesses combined,
Okay.
that we came to be together, and we are two sheep just following our great shepherd.
Right.
You know, and that's it will forever be that way. And if we are, you know, offending someone because of our faith, I mean, I'd rather offend someone than offend our Lord.
Right.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
plain and simple. I mean, that is who we are.
Yeah.
And, you know, we would have been we could have been a lot just, you know, just staying in our own businesses, not combining. I mean, we would have been just fine and
Sure.
very
You've had successful businesses. Right.
But God has such a bigger plan here, and we don't even know what that is yet. But to step out in faith like we have, and we have just seriously been led on so many levels, and the miracle debris, the piles and piles of miracles we have already witnessed, and the people that we have met and that have been put in, you know, the community, it's unbelievable. Even if we stop right now, it's
It's still been the
unbelievable.
biggest blessing of your life.
Oh my
hasn't it?
goodness,
Oh, really?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, yes.
This is so
And we're not
fun.
young. I mean, we're, you know, in our 50s. So, I mean, it's.
You're not young.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that. You're not young. It's I mention that and ask that because I've often said this, and I'm sure the two of you agree that we're all given, well, first of all, we're all given raw talent and gifts and things that we're meant to steward, I think, right? But then we're also sometimes given ideas that don't let go. Like they get in here and then suddenly they nestle all the way in here and you lay in bed at night and you think about it. I really believe that is how the Lord works through us. And I think
Absolutely.
it's meant, so, and I talk about shepherding your ideas forward. So you guys you're totally my people. So going back to Kickstarter, kind of then what came next? You had decided like, okay, Lord, at 40 grand, if we get it, we're good. You got 44. So you're like, okay, the next step.
We
You
just
had to
had such peace.
Right.
You know, because at that point, I think we were at 1.8 million is what they were kind of tossing around.
Thinking this would cost.
Yeah.
And that's when you did the Kickstarter, was when your budget was 1.8.
About that.
Okay.
Or what, I shouldn't say our budget, what we were told this project would cost
Yes,
us.
exactly. I shouldn't say it's your budget. You'd prefer to like get this thing done for the original 800,000, but
Exactly, yeah. Oh my goodness. Can't even get the heating system done.
I know. So then what came next? The 44,000.
We just continued on. We just
Yeah, we just-
because we
But
had
you
the
didn't-
44,000, then we started going to banks because we knew we were going to need large loans. We went to 7-8 different banks, and that was tough. That was really tough because they didn't, you know, one of them basically laughed at us. And what do you want to build a hotel in Nome, North Dakota? They just didn't get it. And
Yeah, they didn't take the time to really listen or understand what it was all about.
Yeah, it was.
And I don't know if it started because they don't understand our businesses because they're kind of strange. You know, not everybody knows. And to realize that they are making money. They didn't even seem to look at
the financials.
Yeah, exactly. Like they didn't believe them.
Yeah. See, this is important though, because success, and for all of my banker friends that might be listening to this, like I hope they really listen to this, because this piece of it's really important. It may not look and, walk and talk the way a traditional business does, but that doesn't make it less legitimate.
Correct.
And again, like we're talking about, if I'm going to sit here behind this microphone every week and say, you can do anything in a small town, well, some of our service providers need to catch up to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, otherwise it's going to hold people back.
Yeah, they could not get, and even now we're still hearing, but it's in Nome. There's 62 people in Nome.
No idea.
They just don't get that this is a worldwide destination. We're going to be bringing folks not only to Nome, to all the areas of North Dakota is all going to benefit from this project.
Of course it is.
They just don't see that.
I only live 50 miles from here.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to benefit from this project being here.
Yes. Yeah. And we know, the Lord is not leading us into failure. Even if it's now 4.1 million.
She said it.
It's it's all good. He's got this, and But backing up now until how we
so you
getting it funded.
Because you got turned down by the banks.
What do we do? What do we do? And we were given the name of an alumni, a very successful alumni that graduated, rags to riches story, graduated from Nome, went to the State School of Science in Wahpeton, and was an inventor and invented a product that helped the corn industry in the harvesting of corn. And fast forward ahead, he is now, 70? In his late 70s. He has got factories all over the world. He has got, he's extremely successful. I was given the number. I called him, got a hold of him in Thailand, and explained to him what we were doing and that we were having trouble getting financing. Is there any way that
he would loan you the money? Did you ask for a loan?
No, I just asked
said, would you be able to help?
Would you help us? Do you have some advice for us as well?
Yeah.
An amazing businessman. So,
by the way, let me just say, a good friend of mine who's smarter than me when it comes to fundraising in the nonprofit world has said to me many times that if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. So it's really smart. Like, you didn't even know that. You had never heard that before. But instead of going to him and saying like you're wealthy, could you give us some money? What he would have said was, here's all the things you should and shouldn't do. And he maybe wouldn't have been as enticed to help you. Instead, you asked for his help and his advice. So smart.
Yeah. And we ended up meeting with him and a couple different times.
Well, it was a lot of texting back and forth for months and months where we didn't really know if he was on board or, he was interested and supportive of what we were doing. But until he was here, he came back to Enderlin. And we got to meet him and actually show him the numbers in our businesses.
Yeah, he wanted all of our tax returns. He wanted all of our information.
Sure. Well, because that would be a prudent decision for an investor, right? So he basically acted as a bank maybe should have.
Yes. And he was very interested and he was, I don't know, right now he's proud of us like his girls.
Sure. Yeah, so sweet.
Super neat. Yeah.
And he really looked into our businesses and was amazed at what we had accomplished and believed in what we could do. So, coming from him, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. And he had so much advice for us. We're like, we need to be writing this down. Yeah. Right. It was just these little one sentence, it's just like, whoa. So humbling.
Yeah, he told us we needed to go to the bank and tell them that we're giving them an opportunity.
You don't go to the bank to ask for money. You go to the bank to offer them an opportunity.
Right.
And it's exactly it.
You're going to prove them wrong, and they're going to be kicking themselves for not getting behind you. And I would say that I'm sorry that happened, and yet I genuinely believe that you were turned down by all those banks for a reason, and that wasn't meant to be the way. It was an untraditional way that you funded it. It's an untraditional thing that you're doing. So why wouldn't it have fallen in line that, you would get the support you needed in a non-traditional way too?
And it got around, of course. It's a small community, that Mr. Anderson did step up and was helping us. And so then it got around, which was a little annoying, is that he was giving us the money.
Sure.
It's a loan at 4.5% amortized. It is a loan. It went through his attorneys. He has He has
Both of our farms.
both of our farms. Everything we own is in clay. I mean, it's done as a bank would do it, and we're not being given anything. So we're still making the monthly payment even now.
Well, because I think that's the thing is a large percentage of your cash flow is going to be coming from your existing businesses.
Correct.
They're just not going to be housed here.
Correct.
And you're
So
putting
we are
all of
working
right. You're putting all of your normal revenues towards this and, pooling your resources instead of it being separate. So yeah, I think that's an important thing. And not the average person wouldn't get it, but you guys are incredible people. I mean, it is so cool. And I was sharing with you, I can't wait. I mean, I cannot wait till you open. I cannot wait to come and do a weekend here because these are things I don't know how to do what you do, but I definitely want to be given the permission to try.
Yes.
I want to be encouraged to try something new. So it's really, really neat.
Part of the whole there is really no place like
what you want to create.
This is going to be in the entire world because there are fiber festivals and there are retreats where they'll rent space in a hotel or what have you, but they're always missing some entity that we will have.
Absolutely.
Here. I mean, whether it's the animals out back, so you can go and meet the sheep, see the entire process on the on-site mill.
So cool.
Yes, the B&B rooms, you'll be able to stay, and the cuisine will be amazing. We have the 2 bars. We'll have plugins for campers if you want to bring your own camp. I mean, there's no reason. It's all right here.
Right.
And the event space for conferences and
weddings.
Weddings.
Yeah, right.
It's so multifunctional and multi-purposeful and
Yeah,
awesome.
I know it is.
It's
It is.
amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. And I just can't wait. I cannot wait to see it. I have an idea for you. I'm going to write it down right here so I don't forget. So we were talking about, you do have a facet of the business that's a nonprofit, correct?
Correct.
Let's just talk about that for a second
The
because
Schoolhouse itself is a 501(c)(3).
Yeah.
And then Shepherd Industries, our business, will be renting space from that Schoolhouse. So we'll be doing, huge part of the Known Schoolhouse is education, of course.
Right.
And giving back to the community. And, and the animals is a huge draw for that. Because folks don't understand wool. I mean, they think, oh, wool, I can't wear wool. What's the first thing you think? Scratchy, itchy.
Right.
There are folks that are allergic to wool, but they can come and they can meet 18 different kinds of sheep that have all different types of wool, that this is a fine wool and feel this. It feels like cotton next to your skin, whereas this is a little coarser wool. It's so
they're used for different things.
Correct.
I mean, they're not,
How we harvest that fiber. They think we have to kill the sheep to get Teresa.
Online, when I share anything about shearing, because I share videos and things on the day that we shear, and there's people that have little crying faces.
Yes.
Because they think we're killing them, even as they're watching, it's not hurting them at all. Or, any little nick or whatever that they get, they're very upset and they won't buy from me because we kill the sheep.
Oh, good gracious. It's funny, but I would have never thought about that. But of course that happens because people are crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But so this is like, you should seriously do like a haters weekend. That would be really funny. Where you're like, hey, everybody that thinks we're horrible, come and check out how alive our animals really are,
Yes.
Yeah.
And how it helps them. If you don't shear these animals, it continues to grow and it's just horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
But that's just, it is education. So it's really important. And I brought that up because I want people to know that there will always be opportunities for people to contribute.
Oh, absolutely.
As a 501(c)(3, again, I always have to say consult your tax advisor because, but ideally it's charitable contributions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have, and still, the costs are, it's just everything goes, oh, we got to do this because that's going to be a little more because we can't go through here. We got to go through here. And it's just,
Like I said, I pulled up and I thought, there's no reason for me to be afraid. And it's really cool though. I'm talking to you too. You're giving me such a sense of peace about my project, which I didn't come here to get that. I think it's like, do I want to do this? Am I going to be better for doing this or not? And that's, like you said, if we stopped right now, you're still tremendously blessed by what you've done. And I think that there's so much to get out of this outside of just financial gain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't look at it from a human standpoint.
And even
we
found
can't do this. How for us to sit here and explain to you how this is all coming to be is we don't have words for it. It's just we know we are in God's will. This is what we are to do, and it just comes. It just works. He works it out. He works it out for the good, and yeah, and it's hard. Oh man, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And there are days that we are like, oh, the next 6 months are going to be really hard. And we're just going to hold on to our shepherd, and there's green pastures out there somewhere. We're sure of it, and we'll be led. But it's a tough one. It is to step out in faith. If it weren't hard, everyone would do it. I mean, it's
absolutely.
And faith it's tough.
And we're to the point now where you can't stop.
No,
you gotta keep going.
Absolutely,
and we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
what? I think that needs to be actually reinforced a bit, because I said that the other day to somebody, that when I finally took possession of my building, and again, I don't mean to make this about me at all, but there was all of a sudden a shift in my attitude towards it. It wasn't like we're just planning about it and talking about it. It's like now everything that happens is my problem, which means I have to figure it out. And it shifted for me in a good way. Also, the responsibility gets a little heavy, right? You feel it at times, but I think that's just it. You're too far into it now to turn around, so you have no choice but to faithfully just keep walking forward.
If we would have been told at the get-go, the first day,
what the number was going to be?
There. I mean, God
gracious.
knew. God knew.
Yeah.
So yeah,
he unveiled it slowly.
Yes. Yeah, but we're hoping to get it done for way under 4.1 too. But
of course.
We're doing so much work ourselves.
I will tell everybody listening though. So the gymnasium is done,
it's
right?
done,
Pretty much done. Your retail space is there.
Mm-hmm. And we're doing classes. We're holding classes as we can. The pandemic has been a tough one.
It's horrible, right?
That's on everyone,
right? And so, when I walked in, I just have to tell you, like I felt it, the energy and the spirit of the building and the spirit of learning. Like you can feel it. It's just infused. These walls hold it. So It's exciting that you get to retain all of that as much as your contractors let you. We were talking about they're just going to say, just rip that out. Nope, you can't have that.
They hate us. They hate us when we come.
I totally, it's like I get it. And yet I want to say, come on, we don't need everything shiny and new in here. We need to have some of the beauty of what was there. But you two are just, I feel so blessed. Seriously, and I make it weepy. My mom was supposed to come with me.
Yes.
Mom, you're really missing out. Like she listens to this, but I can't wait to come back. I can't wait until you're open. I can't wait to bring people back here. And all we want to do on this show is find people that believe in small towns, and Nome is very, very small.
It is very small.
And I think that there's something to be said about being rooted in hope. I just think, especially right now, we're in such a difficult time. Still, it's not over. We're not through it.
No.
And I think you're just a shining example of what that can look like. And I'm so glad I got the chance to see you. I cannot wait to come back. Thank you both so much for being on our show and sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for contacting us.
And believe me, I'll be coming back with a microphone in hand when you guys open, and we will definitely have to share what they're doing now once this all gets together. So thank you guys both so much.
Thank you.